radical pamphlets here and now, an audio production of the new Perennials Project at Middlebury College. For centuries, pamphlets were utilized to demand reform, equality, and justice. Sadly, it is the necessary work that must be taken up with every new generation. Our pamphlets are rooted in the local and written by teachers, farmers, students, artists, community caretakers, and neighbors. They offer common sense and practical advice to slow down and attend to the here and now wherever you are. Enjoy!
Common Sense, Then and Now. Excerpts from Thomas Paine's Common Sense, framed by questions and observations in light of the present day, by Bill Vitek. Performed by Craig Maravich and Lindsay Pontius.
The true source of our sufferings has been our timidity. John Adams. Thomas Paine's Common Sense was published on January 10, 1776. It was one of the many pamphlets that called for a revolt against and separation from Great Britain in the North American colonies. But it is also credited with igniting the revolution for American independence. Might we find some parallels in this pamphlet that align with the work of so many organizations and individuals around the globe who strive to create new templates for living with and caring for each other while acknowledging a living, interdependent, and common Earth home? Does not this work require a similar kind of revolution and separation from the status quo cultural systems that are beyond repair, including but not limited to industrial agriculture, technological fundamentalism, and global capitalism? Paine's original 47-page pamphlet contains many observations and pointed statements that can be read as analogs to the creative efforts of today's resistors, revolutionaries, inventors, artists, and thinkers, and especially so when we substitute his independence with interdependence, his America with Earth, his Whig and Tory with Democrat and Republican, and his Europe, Britain, and England with capitalism, techno-optimism, consumerism, or any of the other isms that describe the systems and mindsets largely responsible for the global mess we find ourselves in. Of particular interest is his critique of moderates who want to reconcile with England, as it challenges contemporary readers to consider just how radical we need to be at this moment. Each selection from his pamphlet is introduced by a question or statement relevant to the present time. It is admittedly quite the imaginative leap to think that Common Sense, written in the British colony of Pennsylvania during the years 1775-1776, has much to do with anything happening around the globe in 2026. But in view of all that is happening at the moment, I hope listeners will regard the leap as worthy of their time and consideration, and that they will forgive Paine's and his generation's use of male pronouns. At the very least, I think it is safe to say that when he writes mankind, he imagines all of humanity, as was the common usage of man at the time. To begin, here's a pretty good description of what people believe they are doing when advocating for large-scale change, regardless of the era.
In the following pages, I offer nothing more than simple facts, plain arguments, and common sense, and have no other preliminaries to settle with the reader, and that he will divest himself of prejudice and prepossession, and suffer his reason and his feelings to determine for themselves, that he will put on, or rather that he will not put off, the true character of a man, and generously enlarge his views beyond the present day.
How should advocates of revolutionary change view those who refuse to accept the evidence and profound truth of its necessity?
Though I would carefully avoid giving unnecessary offense, yet I am inclined to believe that all those who espouse the doctrine of reconciliation may be included within the following descriptions: interested men, who are not to be trusted; weak men, who cannot see; prejudiced men, who will not see; and a certain set of moderate men, who think better of the European world than it deserves. And this last class, by an ill-judged deliberation, will be the cause of more calamities to this continent than all the other three.
If we are not suffering ourselves from the loss of civic liberties, famine, and displacement, surely we can imagine the suffering of others.
It is the good fortune of many to live distant from the scene of sorrow. The evil is not sufficient brought to their doors to make them feel the precariousness with which all American property is possessed. But let our imaginations transport us for a few moments to Boston. That seat of wretchedness will teach us wisdom and instruct us forever to renounce a power in whom we can have no trust. The inhabitants of that unfortunate city, who but a few months ago were at ease and affluence, have now no other alternative than to stay and starve or turn out to beg. Endangered by the fire of their friends if they continue within the city, and plundered by the soldiery if they leave it. In their present condition, they are prisoners without the hope of redemption, and in a general attack for their relief, they would be exposed to the fury of both armies.
We must confront the temptation to find the good in those we oppose, or to work with them in the hope that we can make their destructive forces less so.
Men of passive tempers look somewhat lightly over the offenses of Britain, and still hoping for the best are apt to call out, "Come, come, we shall be friends again for all this." But examine the passions and feelings of mankind. Bring the doctrine of reconciliation to the touchstone of nature, and then tell me whether you can hereafter love, honor, and faithfully serve the powers that hath carried fire and sword into your land. If you cannot do all these, then you are only deceiving yourselves, and by your delay bringing ruin upon your posterity. Your future connection with Britain, whom you can neither love nor honor, will be forced and unnatural, and being formed only on the plan of present convenience will in a little time fall into a relapse more wretched than the first. But if you say you can still pass the violations over, then I ask, hath your house been burnt? Hath your property been destroyed before your face? Are your wife and children destitute of a bed to lie on or bread to live on? Have you lost a parent or a child by their hands, and yourself the ruined and wretched survivor? If you have not, then you are not a judge of those who have. But if you have, and still can shake hands with the murderers, then you are unworthy of the name of husband, father, friend, or lover, or whatever may be your rank or title in life. You have the heart of a coward and the spirit of a sycophant.
It's unequivocal. The time for action is now.
It is repugnant to reason, to the universal order of things, to all examples from the former ages, to suppose that this continent can longer remain subject to any external power. The most sanguine in Britain does not think so. The utmost stretch of human wisdom cannot at this time compass a plan short of separation, which can promise the continent even a year's security. Reconciliation is now a fallacious dream. Nature hath deserted the connection, and art cannot supply her place. For as Milton wisely expresses, Never can true reconcilement grow where wounds of deadly hate have pierced so deep.
Let us begin to imagine the living earth as Paine's asylum for mankind.
O ye that love mankind, ye that dare oppose not only the tyranny, but the tyrant, stand forth. Every spot of the old world is overrun with oppression. Freedom hath been hunted round the globe. Asia and Africa have long expelled her. Europe regards her like a stranger, and England hath given her warning to depart. O receive the fugitive and prepare in time an asylum for mankind.
Why, we'd rather do anything else than confront the uncertain, difficult, and destabilizing changes ahead.
These proceedings may at first appear strange and difficult, but like all other steps which we have already passed over, will in a little time become familiar and agreeable. And until an independence is declared, the continent will feel itself like a man who continues putting off some unpleasant business from day to day, yet knows it must be done, hates to set about it, wishes it over, and is continually haunted with the thoughts of its necessity.
How building a new revolution is the business of the world.
I shall conclude these remarks with the following timely and well-intended hints. We ought to reflect that there are 3 different ways by which an independency may hereafter be effected, and that one of those 3 will one day or other be the fate of America, namely by the legal voice of the people in Congress, by a military power, or by a mob. It may not always happen that our soldiers are citizens, and the multitude a body of reasonable men. Virtue, as I have already remarked, is not hereditary, neither is it perpetual. Should an independency be brought about by the first of those means, we have every opportunity and every encouragement before us to form the noblest, purest constitution on the face of the earth. We have it in our power to begin the world over again. A situation similar to the present hath not happened since the days of Noah until now. The birthday of a new world is at hand, and a race of men, perhaps as numerous as all Europe contains, are to receive their portion of freedom from the event of a few months. The reflection is awful, and in this point of view, how trifling, how ridiculous do the little paltry cavillings of a few weak or interested men appear when weighed against the business of a world.
Could this moment be our bond?
In short, independence is the only bond that can tie and keep us together. We shall then see our object, and our ears will be legally shut against the schemes of an intriguing as well as cruel enemy. It is our delaying that encourages her to hope for conquest, and our backwardness tends only to prolong the war.
And should we fail to act?
Should we neglect the present favorable and inviting period, and an independence be hereafter effected by any other means, we must charge the consequence to ourselves, or to those rather whose narrow and prejudiced souls are habitually opposing the measure, without either inquiring or reflecting. There are reasons to be given in support of independence, which men should rather privately think of than be publicly told of. We ought not now to be debating whether we shall be independent or not, but anxious to accomplish it on a firm, secure, and honorable basis, and uneasy rather than it is not yet began upon, Every day convinces us of its necessity.
What are we waiting for?
On these grounds I rest the matter. And as no offer hath yet been made to refute the doctrine contained in the former editions of this pamphlet, it is negative proof that either the doctrine cannot be refuted, or that the party in favor of it are too numerous to be opposed. Wherefore, instead of gazing at each other with suspicious or doubtful curiosity, let each of us hold out to his neighbor the hearty hand of friendship, and unite in drawing a line which, like an act of oblivion, shall bury in forgetfulness every former dissension. Let the names of Whig and Tory be extinct, and let none other be heard among us than those of a good citizen, an open and resolute friend, and a virtuous supporter of the rights of mankind and the free and independent states of America.
Paine's well-tempered words and arguments invite readers in any age to consider whether they are more loyalist than patriot, or of passive tempers hoping to avoid revolutionary changes by embracing a fallacious reconciliation with the very powers and systems that oppress them. Have we ceded the language and logic of revolution to those who prefer to work inside the system, to those who are akin to colonial loyalists, calling their beliefs about conformity to the crown revolutionary? Paine understands how difficult such revolutionary choices are. He does not condemn readers who find it difficult to do what is required in revolutionary transitions, so much as to persuade them that in such transitions, it is impossible to avoid such choices. If we can say to ourselves, to our friends and neighbors, and to those we know with hands-on, large-scale levers, that these are indeed revolutionary times, and if we can see clearly that the world is changing in ways that we would not choose and could no longer ignore, then like those earlier revolutionaries, we can adopt the dogged commitment and enthusiasm to start some new thinking that will surprise the world. John Adams.
It was common sense then.
It is common sense now.
Notes. 1. An earlier version of this pamphlet was published as Common Sense Redux in 2022 by resilience.org. 2. Paine's original pamphlet is widely available online and in numerous paperback editions. This pamphlet utilized the Project Gutenberg ebook edition. Original spellings, use of italics, and phrasings are preserved. 3. While there are obviously no recordings of Paine's voice, here are some hints, courtesy of Google AI. Thomas Paine likely sounded distinctly English, but with a surprisingly gentle and refined voice. According to an Englishman who met him in Paris in 1802, Paine was, quote, fluent in speech, of mild and gentle demeanor, clear and distinct in enunciation, and his voice exceedingly soft and agreeable, unquote. Having lived in Thetford in London until he was 37, he would have carried a British accent, though he lightly dropped English drop-syllable habits when addressing colonial audiences to ensure clarity. And unlike booming orators of the era like Patrick Henry, Paine's style was clear, conversational, and direct. Because his goal was to educate the working class, his delivery was likely measured and deeply logical.
To learn more about the New Perennials Project at Middlebury College, visit newperennials.org, where you can download free versions of all of our books, pamphlets, and educational materials. Special thanks to audio engineer Johnny Melly and to our authors and readers. Music composed and performed by Caitlin Miss Adams. Introductory narration by Caitlin Miss Adams. You can contact us at newperennials@middlebury.edu. Thanks for listening.